Hot topic here on Morning Kick Around. Couldn't be more on the nose. Is it too hot to play? It proved to be in Kansas City, the marquee game on the NWSL schedule this weekend, delayed 3.5 hours. They put the KC Current versus Orlando in Kansas City, due to be kicked off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Was that a good idea, Jason?
Seems not to have been. Seems to have been a mistake. Here's the headline from The Athletic. NWSL match finishes scoreless after 3.5 hour heat delay. Quote, it was too hot to play. And who could have known, Rob, in the middle of August in Kansas City, Missouri, that it would be too hot to play. Too hot at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Yeah, okay. So this is where the conflicting concerns for the NWSL come to a head, right? And why this is something we need to talk about. Because they wanted this game to go off at 3 p.m. because they wanted it to be on television. They wanted it to be on CBS. They wanted it to be a marquee matchup, which it was, played in the only purpose-built women's soccer stadium in the country. And that was supposed to be an advertisement for NWSL, an opportunity to get this game in front of as many eyeballs as possible and show off the best that NWSL has to offer. But man, again, who could have known that it was going to be so hot? And I don't know, Rob, what do you think? Put yourself in the shoes of the NWSL decision makers when they're looking at the schedule and they're looking at their television dates and they're looking at their CBS partnership and they're like, you know what we got to do? We got to get that Kansas City Stadium on television, and we got to do it with a couple of our biggest teams. Would you have made this same choice? I mean, forget that it was delayed. Would you have made the same choice, being able to somewhat predict that was going to be goddamn hot in Kansas City in August?
Yeah, more often than not, it would be. I mean, maybe their fingers crossed. Hopefully it's a randomly rainy game in the area of the country, but it's almost probably the, beggars can't be choosers sort of a thing. Maybe it's like CBS is like, hey, we have this spot available. What game do you got? Or we want to feature two of your best teams. What's on the schedule that day? They probably didn't have a whole lot of choice in this. I can't quite see what you got on the schedule, but to answer a question from Nate on the screen, so how hot was it? So the NWSL rules state that the temperature must not exceed 92.3. In direct sunlight, they have a WGBT measure heat stress, and it accounts for factors such as temperature, humidity, wind speed, sun angle, and cloud coverage. And at kickoff, or the scheduled kickoff, the metric was close to 94 degrees, so just above that threshold. 94 degrees, that's a pretty unsafe temperature from my guesstimation. What does it say on the screen there, Mr.
So this is Daniel Sperry. He writes on Kansas City Soccer. Follow him at Daniel Sperry, kc.bsky.social. Yes, I believe we have. Statement from an NWSL spokesperson on the delays. The league aims to play matches as scheduled whenever safely possible. While forecasts guide planning, we primarily rely on real-time, on-site weather data to make informed decisions in accordance with our inclement weather policies and protocols. Based on those inputs, the league made the decision to delay today's match. And again, it feels like they shot themselves in the foot, Rob, that this was a self-inflicted situation. You had to know that there were going to be potential heat problems. And again, Riverside Grove, why couldn't it have been played at 7? Because that's not the TV window, right? That's not the TV window. Now, okay. Now, Nate's also saying 92.3, that's nothing. That's the entire summer in many parts of the country. No. Again, these are league policies. I'm imagining that some of this is negotiated with the NWSL Players Union, right? The union says we're not going to play if it's too hot. And even if you want to say, well, it's hotter other places, or maybe it's as hot in another place where they're playing a men's game or whatever, it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't be putting these players through this, right? And there's this sense that like, oh, well, we all just have to deal with this. But man, at some point we have to say, well, enough is enough. Look, I'm going to add a little bit more evidence to what's going on with the heat. And this is NWSL again, but I also think this applies to it plays to MLS as we consider a calendar change. This is Laura Harvey talking about a game that the Seattle Reign played in Portland last weekend, not this past weekend, but last weekend.
Best doing health-wise, is she 100%?
Yes. She, a lot of the players on Sunday literally had burnt feet, and like the turf literally burnt them. She was one of them. So imagine what sunburn is on the bottom of your feet. That's basically what they had. So that's how hot it was in.
So hot in Portland.
Horrific.
Now,
that's pretty horrific.
Portland's not even considered that hot of a city, right? Relative to a Kansas City in the summer, or a Texas in the summer, or the Deep South in the summer. That's not supposed to be that one of the hotter places. And obviously, the artificial surface in Portland is part of the problem here. That's retaining heat in a way that grass is not going to retain heat, right? So I don't want to say that applies in every case. But again, Laura Harvey is saying it was so hot, our players had burned feet. How can you possibly play decent soccer in a place where it's too hot and you burn your feet? I mean, what are we doing here? And what do we do? Acknowledging that it's not going to get cooler. It's not going to get cooler. It's only going to get hotter. And I actually think now, as we see this evidence come out, as we see what happened this weekend in Kansas City, when we consider what MLS is looking at, and Don Garber's talking about aligning windows, and how much of it is just, we can't play in the summer. It's going to be too damn hot.
Yeah, this is definitely part. I know a lot of the focus of the calendar change for MLS is focused on it's going to be too cold in the winter, but this is definitely part of the equation. Is midsummer heat is insane, and I kind of remember when I was covering the Chicago Fire, or the Chicago Red Stars actually, and there was a game that was incredibly hot. Seemed like it was too hot for anyone to exist. They even had a safety warning for the crowd to have everyone in the stands come to the near side of the stands to fill in the shaded part. And it had a huge impact on the game because the players all drifted to the side of the field with the shadow. And almost all of the play was on one side of the field, intentionally or not, but all the players were gravitating towards the one side of the field in SeatGeek that had a little bit of a shadow. So you can't say that's the pinnacle of the competition if the people on the field need to be hiding in the shadows in order to just get through a game. And it's insane. And then I remember also a couple of years ago at an artificial turf, my USL 2 side, Oakland County FC, they had some of their the studs on the bottom of their boots melting because of the sort of situation. Those artificial turfs, a lot of them, the high school football fields, are basically just carpet on top of concrete, and it's like a sizzling frying pan. And that's probably why that situation happened in Portland with the burns on the bottom of the feet, because I've felt that radiating heat is super uncomfortable, and I can't imagine what actually having it scorched through your shoes, through your socks, on your feet.
Well,
that's just terrible.
I'll tell you what.
Not humane.
Okay. And I don't think, the level of melanin in your skin doesn't necessarily mean that you are protected, right? People can get sunburned no matter what color your skin is. But as somebody who is fair skinned in that kind of sun and that kind of heat, I turn into like a tomato. Like it's terrible. And it doesn't really matter what I put on. Like, it's just impossible. And I'm also I'm like a heavy sweater as well. Like, I just imagine. Now that's a cooling mechanism, and maybe I ultimately in the end would be okay. But like, heat stroke's a real thing, and it happens all the time. In fact, one of the things about that game in Kansas City is that multiple people were taken away in ambulances because of heat stroke in the stands, and they weren't running around. Now, they're not top level athletes either, but they're not running around. They're just in the building trying to watch a soccer game, and they have to go to the hospital because of heat stroke. Like, we cannot do that. We cannot do that. And unfortunately, in terms of how we deal with this, right? There are much bigger issues that are not soccer specific about the way that our climate is changing, and how much of that is even, controllable is a debate I don't want to get into. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what we can do. It seems like this is just, we're down this road, and whether it was natural or man-made, we're just dealing with heat, right? Heat is a greater problem in our lives now than it's ever been before. One of the things in Europe that I've read, Rob, is all those houses, particularly in Northern Europe, were designed to hold in heat during the winter, not to cool, because in the summer it wasn't all that hot. Now it's too hot, and they don't have the airflow isn't designed for it to cool the house. It's designed to hold all that. And so when we're here in the US and we're like, oh, it's 95, that's pretty hot, but I'm inside and I've got a house with air conditioning and we're all good. in Europe, people are dying because their houses are not designed properly for that kind of heat, no matter what kind of air conditioned situation that they have. Right. So this is just, again, sort of acknowledging that we're in a moment where we're dealing with stuff we've never had to deal with before, even if we think, oh, it's always been hot. It's not been hot like this. And it's certainly not been hot like this when leagues like the NWSL are trying to grow by putting their product on television at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Kansas City weekend.
Yeah, we didn't get to see the likes of Timur Chewinga and Barbara Banda, ply their trade at the top of their game. The heat is preventative for athletes to play at the top of their abilities. And then this might come into the fact of, like, there is a debate in global women's soccer about what league is the top league. Is it the Women's Super League in UK? That's on the rise. And in the NWSL, like, they're competing for those top talents. And then is the drastic heat and the extreme weather one of the cases to maybe one of the top players deciding to go to England rather than the United States and the NWSL?
I'm going to say this again, okay, because Nate is in here arguing about this temperature. Oh, it's not that hot. 92, 95, okay, 96 is not that hot. Nate, I don't want to pick on you here, okay? We shouldn't have to talk about that. We shouldn't have to be like, well, 92 is not that hot. It's always been 92. Players, again, just because we've always done it doesn't mean we should keep doing it. Does that make sense? Like, we get to a point where it's like, okay, look, we've always played in the summer and it's always hot and we deal with it. No, we should be looking for ways to mitigate the impact of the heat on our soccer. First of all, for the benefit of the health of the players, but second of all, for the quality of the game in this country, right? I think, again, MLS is looking at this and going, our product is going to suffer in significant ways, because now it's not just, oh, it's 95 degrees at 2:00 in the afternoon, don't play at 2. It's 85, 95 degrees at 8:00 in the evening. And, oh, well, when can we play then? Right? And how do we deal with this? And maybe there are situations where we'd like to have our games in the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday because we have a potential to capture a different kind of audience, or our broadcast partners want that. Yeah, everybody's complaining about the schedule in MLS, right? All the games start at 7:30 local. I can't watch more than one game. If you want to spread out games, you're going to have to play during the day. So if you're going to play during the day, do you want to do that in the middle of the summer, or do you want to do that in the wintertime or in the fall when it's a lot cooler? And then again, the game improves. The quality of the game improves because the players aren't killing themselves running 6 miles in not only 92 degrees or 95 degrees, but in 75% humidity or 65% humidity when it is just absolutely impossible.
Yeah, this is making me nervous. I'm assuming that the World Cup next year is planning to play through the afternoon. Is that right? Do I have all
everybody's
those?
Talking? Look, after the Club World Cup experience, where heat was a major factor in that, and coaches were complaining about not even being able to train. Enzo Maresca was like, we can't even train. How are we supposed to get ready for these games? We can't even train. With that in mind, the recent experience, everybody's kind of trepidatious about what FIFA's going to do with scheduling for next year. The consensus or the thought was they're going to want to put games on during the day because the timing works out for the European television audiences. They did it in 94 when it was hot, but it's even hotter now. Got more games. Players are traveling all over the place. I don't know. I don't know, Rob. I don't think they should be playing games in the middle of the afternoon in the 2026 World Cup, but we shall see.
Will logic prevail? We shall see. And yeah, shout out, less than, I think 3 weeks or so, 3-4 weeks until World Cup tickets go on sale. So we'll have to be on World Cup ticket watch here in a little bit. Going to move right along to our next segment. If you're watching this now and you haven't hit subscribe, what you waiting for? Morning Kick Around could use you as a subscriber. We're trying to get as many voices into this show as possible. To further our pursuit of becoming one of the town centers for the American soccer conversations. So just click subscribe. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. If you want to step it up a notch with your support of the show, $3.99 is all it costs to become a MK Ultra, a channel member of Morning Kick Around. You get priority commenting on screen to live programs such as this. You get early access to videos, bonus content, and access to the Morning Kick Around Discord server. Thank you for everyone who has become a member thus far. And thank you for tuning in. Regardless, you can also support on coffee.com/morningkickaround. We got some specific fundraising goals there, and you can find us on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And one thing I often forget to mention is we are a podcast. Look up on Spotify or any of your favorite audio platforms and look up Morning Kickaround to take us on the road as a podcast.